There is a power that comes not only with writing your story, but understanding the power of story. Welcome to Intuition Unlocked. This podcast is for women who are craving a deeper return to who they are. Maybe you've lost your spark a little, or feel unsure of your next step, or find yourself searching outside of you for clarity. Well, this space is here to bring you back inward and ignite your heart and soul once more. I'm your host, Olivia Ashley, a mother, an intuitive, and I'm so happy you're here. Hello, friend, and welcome in. As always, I'm so happy that you're here, choosing to spend time with me and helping yourself grow your intuition and your connection and just hopefully feel better in your life. So today's conversation is one that's been sitting on my heart because I think the more that I study intuition and psychology, spirituality, and even history, yes, I was a history major in college, the more I come back to one simple realization. We live inside stories. Some of these are beautiful, some protect us, some even inspire us to become who we're meant to be, and yet others can keep us stuck without us ever realizing they're there. So today I want to explore the incredible power of story, and not just the stories we read or tell other people, but the stories we've inherited, the stories we've believed about ourselves, and the stories that we're creating every single day. So we're going to talk about why stories have always been central to what it means to be human, how the stories you believe in quietly shape your reality, and how your intuition can help you discern what is true from what simply feels familiar, so you can begin creating a life that feels more aligned, expansive, and deeply your own. So let's get into it. Firstly, I want to talk about how stories shape the human experience. Long before we had books, podcasts, movies, or even written language, we had stories. Stories helped us survive. They taught us where to find food and what to fear, where we came from, how to care for one another, and what it meant to belong. These stories carried our history, our wisdom, the values and beliefs and identities from one generation to the next. And every culture has creation stories. Every religion teaches through stories and parables. Families tell stories about where they came from. Nations build stories about who they are. And myths have helped people understand the changing seasons, the stars above them, life, death, and everything in between. So stories have always been helping us make meaning out of the mystery of being human. They play such a pivotal role. And if we bring it to today, you can think about how you answer some of life's biggest questions. If someone asks about your childhood, you don't often hand them a timeline of facts. You tell them a story. And if someone asks how you met your partner, or why you chose your career, or what changed your life, you tell a story. Story is one of the primary ways that we organize meaning. And psychologists have studied stories for years. They've learned that our brains are constantly connecting dots, looking for patterns, and asking, what does this mean? And what meaning do I attribute to this? As humans, we naturally create narratives to help us understand an incredibly complex world. The challenge from this, though, is that our brains are often more interested in creating a coherent explanation rather than an objectively accurate one. So if a story helps you feel prepared, protected, or gives you a sense of certainty, you're often going to keep believing it long after it stopped serving you or was actually true anymore. And all of this helps us understand why stories are so powerful, because they don't just shape how you remember your past, they are influencing how you experience the present moment and what you believe is possible for your future. And whether or not you realize it, you're living inside stories every single day. Some of those stories that you carry are deeply personal. Others are handed to you before you are even old enough to question them. They come from your family, your culture, your education, or your faith traditions, as well as the community you grew up in and the experiences that shaped you. Sometimes that one painful moment becomes a story that you will tell for decades and colors a lot of your life and your existence and the things that you choose or don't choose because of it. Some examples that I commonly see within people, and I can relate to myself, is that maybe someone criticized you as a child, and somewhere along the way, that story became, I'm not good enough. In who I am, I don't trust myself. Or maybe you've always been highly sensitive and empathic, and that story became, I'm too much, I'm too sensitive, I need to protect myself and stay safe, and I can't be a part of the world the way that I would like to. Or maybe you've spent years caring for everyone else and putting everyone else first, adhering to the perfectionism and the caretaking, and your story became, my needs can wait. I will put everyone else first. And whatever your story is, we all have them. And what I've noticed over time is that our stories become invisible because they've been with us for so long that we forget they're even there. We're just operating on our usual system. And so our body and our nervous system and what we do becomes the truth. That's our new truth and our new paradigm of existence, but it's all rooted on those stories. Now, there are some beautiful stories too. There are stories that we carry that help us, that motivate us, that give us confidence. We all have a spectrum of these stories. And I like to think that they're not necessarily good or bad, but it's more what stories help you feel most authentic. What stories help you feel most true to who you are and able to feel nourished and connected in your life and feel like you can step into anything that you want because you know who you are and your story supports that. We can also look at this from a collective level too, where there are stories that many of us inherited about success, productivity, motherhood, relationships, money, aging, our body, achievement, or what it means to be worthy. There's so much here that we could unpack. And some of these narratives helped you grow, others helped you stay disconnected. And that's what's interesting about stories. Like I said, they're not inherently good or bad. Some help you heal, some help you survive, some help you dream bigger, and some simply need to be updated because you've outgrown them. Which brings me to a question that I think is worth asking throughout your entire life. It's one you can come back to again and again, which is, am I living a story I consciously chose, or am I living a story I've unconsciously inherited or agreed to? And that question opens the door for you to become the author again of your story. I actually don't think life is often asking us to be completely different people, to throw out all the bad and only focus on the good, or completely burn things away in an attempt to get something better. The grass is not always greener. I actually think all of these big feelings, these understanding of our stories, the struggles, the successes, everything in between, and all of those feelings that you feel because of it are invitations to consistently come back to the present and become a conscious author of your life and of your story. To become conscious enough to notice the stories you've unconsciously and consciously have been rehearsing and writing. To understand why they've all been created. To honor the ones that have protected you. And also to decide whether these are still helping you become the person you want to be. Tony Robbins has this quote that I often come back to, which is, the only thing keeping you from getting what you want is a story you keep telling yourself. There's so much wisdom in that because every decision you make adds another sentence to the story you're writing. Every moment, every choice, every conversation, every time you trust yourself or choose not to, you are writing. And eventually those sentences become chapters, and those chapters become your identity, and your identity begins shaping your future. And I don't think we're here to simply heal old stories. I think we're here to understand them, make sense of it, and have meaning in it, and also to write new ones. New stories about what success looks like. New stories about leadership that doesn't require burnout. New stories about motherhood that leaves room for nourishment and rest and connection and devotion. New stories about sensitivity and intuition being a strength and a superpower instead of something to dampen and overcome. And new stories that allow more compassion, presence, curiosity, and wonder in our lives. Because every time you choose differently, you're not just changing your own life. You're actually expanding what's possible for the people and the world around you. Stories have always shaped humanity and the trajectory of them. Stories have been used to motivate people. Stories have been used to crumble countries. Stories have been used to gain control. there is a power that comes not only with writing your story, but understanding the power of story. And the beautiful thing is that right now, whether you realize it or not, you are helping to write the next sentences and the chapter of your own story and life, and that of our collective, of this earth, of what we are going to say yes to and say no to. And as much as sometimes we think that as singular beings, we don't affect the reality here, we absolutely do. Each one of us has an innate power through our choice, through our actions, through our words, to create an existence all our own. And knowing that we're constantly creating a new story or choosing to uphold an old story, I think instead of putting all your attention into the new story and that next step, it's important to learn how to recognize the ones already running your life. That's the first step, because the foundation that you're working from here and now is going to affect everything moving forward. So I always like to come back to, where am I now? What stories are running now? And then how and where do I want to adjust or pivot to ensure that my new story that I'm putting my energy into is the one that's the best that I can put forward, that feels most authentic and aligned for me. And for me, that's where my intuition becomes a powerful guide. Because one of the greatest gifts my intuition has given me isn't that it tells me exactly what decision to make or predicts what's going to happen. It's that it helps me understand the deeper story beneath what's happening. And this is very important, because while your mind is an incredible storyteller, your mind is constantly trying to make sense of the world by filling in gaps, predicting outcomes, protecting you from uncertainty, and creating explanations for why you feel the way you do right now. And sometimes, like we've said, those stories are so helpful, but sometimes they're rooted in fear or rooted in old survival strategies that are not supporting the life you're trying to build. And often we don't realize that there's these deeper roots of energetics sitting that we've captured in time and space within ourselves because of something that's happened to us or something we've inherited or something we've been told, because they're so quiet and we've held them for so long. So again, maybe your mind tells you you're falling behind, or that setting a boundary is going to disappoint someone, or you're going to fail if you try something new. Those stories can feel incredibly convincing because they're familiar, but familiar does not mean true. And so that's where you can use your intuition to help you create space between you and the story you've automatically believed. So instead of immediately accepting every thought as truth, your intuition invites you into curiosity, where you get to examine what is coming forward or what is underneath that story that's coming up and say, is this actually true? Or where did this belief come from? Whose voice am I hearing right now? Is this a story rooted in fear, or is it rooted in love and truth? What is at the root of this experience? And what is this experience trying to teach me? All of those questions, while subtly different, are going to help you investigate your story, and your body and your intuition, and through your clairs, are going to show you and send you information that helps you make better sense of it. And I have found that using your intuition is most successful when you learn to ask better questions. And not only ask questions to yourself in your mind, but ask questions into your body. Because your body tells stories through tension, exhaustion, through symptoms, and through your feelings and emotions. Not every symptom has a hidden spiritual meaning, but I do believe that our bodies are constantly communicating with us. They're offering information and inviting us to pay attention. And we just need to remember how to listen. So instead of sitting with the story of, I'm just uncomfortable, or my emotions are too much, and then searching outside of ourselves for someone else to explain it or to fix it or to just keep dampening it down and escaping it, your intuition can offer you another way, because it is a tool that can look at all that information and those senses and give you clarity. And the best way to use your intuition and to step into that space is to become curious, to slow down, to listen before you react, and continue to ask what and why questions. Those are the ones that help you get underneath the truth. Because sometimes the greatest breakthrough isn't discovering a brand new story. It's actually finally seeing the one that's been quietly shaping your life all along and tending to it, understanding it. So then when you decide to write and live a new story, you're better equipped to do so. Once you see those stories, you have a choice. You can keep living it, or you can begin writing something new. The choice is always yours. Knowing that, I want to leave you with a few questions to help you get started. With the main one being, what story have you been repeating lately? Where did it begin? And does it feel true? What wisdom has that story offered you? And what parts of it might you be ready to release? And I ask these questions in the way that I do because I want you to investigate. I don't want you to simply judge and delete. I don't think that's the point of this exercise or how you can best work with your story. I think many of our stories were beautiful pieces that we have clung to help us survive, to feel protected, and feel safe. But we can also remember that not every story is meant to stay forever with us. That as you grow, your story can grow with you. And when you learn to listen to your intuition, you begin discovering which stories are asking to be honored, which are asking to be rewritten, and which were never yours to carry in the first place. So this week, I invite you to become a little bit more curious, to notice the stories that your mind tells, to notice the stories your body might be holding, and notice the stories you've inherited. And then ask yourself, what story am I wanting to write next? Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear what story you're beginning to question, honor, or rewrite. You can always send me a message. And if you know someone who needs this conversation, I hope you'll share this episode with them. Until next time, keep listening and keep following what's true and have fun investigating the stories of your life. Thank you so much for being here today. I am truly grateful you chose to spend this time with me and be a part of this community. If this episode resonated, I'd love for you to leave a rating and written review because it helps Intuition Unlocked reach more women who are ready to live clearer, bolder, and more self-led. As a thank you, screenshot your review and email it to me, and I'll send you a resource to support your next step. And until next time, root into your truth, rise into your power, and radiate your light.